The day the aliens came started like any other. Blue skies stretched over most of North America, and people went about their daily lives. No one knew that by sunset, everything would change forever. George Franklin sat at his desk in the Pentagon's underground command center sipping his third cup of coffee. At 52, the commander had seen many crises come and go during his 30 years of military service. His gray hair and the lines around his eyes told stories of countless sleepless nights protecting his country. Today would add many more. "Sir, we're picking up unusual readings in orbit," said a young lieutenant, her voice steady despite the confusion on her face. "Multiple objects just appeared out of nowhere. They're massive." George put down his coffee and moved to the main screen. The objects were like nothing he had ever seen. Sleek vessels with hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect. They positioned themselves over major cities worldwide with impossible speed and precision. "Get me the president," George ordered, his stomach tightening. "And contact all our allied forces." Before anyone could act, the communication officer called out, "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from one of the vessels." The main screen flickered, revealing a being that looked almost reptilian, with gray-blue skin and large, unblinking eyes. It spoke in perfect English. "People of Earth, we are the Kelvarian Empire. Your planet is now under our control. Resistance is pointless and will result in unnecessary destruction. We suggest immediate surrender." The transmission cut off. Seconds later, reports flooded in of energy beams striking military installations worldwide. "They're taking out our satellites," someone shouted. "Air defense systems are offline." George watched in horror as the symbols representing American fighter jets vanished from tactical displays. The aliens weren't just attacking. They were systematically eliminating Earth's ability to fight back. In Colorado, Army Captain Lisa Ward's morning run was interrupted by the sound of fighter jets scrambling from the nearby Air Force base. She stopped, watching them climb into the clear, blue sky before continuing her jog. 20 minutes later, her phone buzzed with an emergency alert just as a shadow passed overhead. Looking up, Lisa saw a massive ship blocking the sun. It was bigger than a naval aircraft carrier and completely silent. Before she could process what she was seeing, bright beams lanced down from the vessel, striking the Air Force base. Even from miles away, she felt the heat of the explosions. Her training kicked in immediately. Lisa sprinted back to her apartment, changed into her uniform, and grabbed her go-bag. The roads were already filling with panicked civilians as she drove toward her unit's rally point. "Captain Ward," her battalion commander said when she arrived at the armory, "we have orders to evacuate civilians from the downtown area. The aliens, and yes, that's what they are, have started landing troops in major cities." Lisa nodded, her mind racing but focused. "Any intel on their capabilities, sir?" "Only that our weapons seem to do little damage to their ships, and communication is spotty at best. We're operating almost blind." Within an hour, Lisa led her company of soldiers into downtown Denver. The alien ship loomed overhead, occasionally firing at military vehicles or police stations. Smaller craft were descending now, dropships Lisa assumed, carrying ground forces. "Keep moving," she ordered her soldiers as they directed streams of frightened civilians toward designated safe zones. "Stay calm and keep these people moving." A beam of energy struck a building 2 blocks away, sending debris raining down. Lisa ran toward the dust cloud, finding a family trapped beneath a fallen sign. As her soldiers helped free them, she caught her first glimpse of the invaders. They moved with strange, fluid grace despite their bulky armor. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, carrying weapons that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie. One pointed its weapon at a police officer who was firing his service pistol at them. The bullets seemed to stop inches from the alien's body, and with a flash of blue light, the officer was gone, reduced to ash. Lisa pulled her team back, knowing they needed better weapons and a plan if they were going to save anyone. Jack Miller watched the news in disbelief from his ranch house in Montana. At 45, he had retired from the Marines 5 years ago, seeking peace in the isolated countryside. Now he watched as New York, London, Beijing, and Moscow all fell under alien attack simultaneously. "This can't be happening," his wife, Karen whispered beside him, clutching his arm. The power flickered and went out. Jack moved to the window and looked toward his neighbor's farm 2 miles down the road. A column of smoke rose into the sky. Collateral damage from an orbital strike aimed at a nearby military installation, he guessed. Get the emergency radio, Jack told Karen as he headed to the basement. There, behind a locked cabinet, was his old service rifle and the ammunition he kept just in case. Never had he imagined the case would be alien invasion. As night fell, Jack sat on his porch, watching distant flashes light up the horizon. The radio had brought only fragments of information. Government, officials urging calm, reports of alien forces landing in cities, military channels going silent one by one. What are we going to do? Karen asked, joining him with 2 cups of coffee. Jack checked his rifle before answering. What Marines always do, adapt and overcome. Aboard the Kelvarian command ship, General Zorthak reviewed the initial invasion, reports with satisfaction. His forearms worked multiple control panels simultaneously as he analyzed the humans' response to their arrival. Primitive weapons, he noted to his second-in-command. Their most advanced fighter craft cannot even penetrate our defensive fields. Some resistance continues in rural areas, his subordinate reported, and their military command structures appear more decentralized than our scans suggested. Zorthak dismissed this concern with a wave of his lower right hand. Irrelevant. Their major power centers are under our control. Without unified command, their resistance will collapse within days. He activated the ship's communication system to make his report to the Imperial High Command. Invasion proceeding as planned, he stated. Human military forces neutralized. Civilian population center secured. Ground forces encountering minimal effective resistance. The planet should be fully pacified within 1 lunar cycle. The response was immediate. Excellent, General. Proceed with resource extraction preparations. The Empire is pleased with your efficiency. Zorthak ended the transmission and turned to the viewing screen showing Earth below. Such a blue planet, rich with resources the Empire needed, and so easily conquered, just as their scouts had predicted. Begin landing our main ground forces, he ordered. Focus on securing government facilities and infrastructure. The humans will soon understand resistance is futile. What Zorthak could not see from orbit was Jack Miller cleaning his rifle, or Lisa Ward gathering survivors and weapons, or George Franklin establishing emergency communications from a hardened bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The Kelvarians had won, the first battle with overwhelming force and technology, but the war for Earth had only just begun, and they were about to learn a harsh lesson about human tenacity. As the alien dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere in their thousands, humans everywhere made a choice: surrender or fight. More than the Kelvarians expected chose to fight. 3 weeks had passed since the Kelvarians arrived. Their ship still hung in the sky like dark shadows, but something had changed. What should have been a quick victory was turning into a drawn-out struggle. General Zorthak stood at the viewing window of his command ship, forearms clasped behind his back. His gray-blue skin had become paler with stress. I do not understand, he said to his science officer. We control their major cities. Their governments have fallen, yet the resistance grows stronger. The science officer adjusted his breathing apparatus. Earth's atmosphere contained more oxygen than their homeworld, making it uncomfortable for extended periods. The humans are adapting, the officer replied. They learn our patterns quickly, and they are more determined than our study suggested. Zorthak turned away from the window. Show me the latest reports. A holographic display showed red dots spreading across maps of human territories. Each dot represented an attack on Kelvarian forces. There were hundreds of them. Unacceptable, Zorthak hissed. Double our ground forces. I want this planet secured before the next lunar cycle. In the Appalachian Mountains, Lieutenant Susan Hayes crouched behind a fallen tree, watching an alien patrol move through the forest. 3 weeks ago, she had been a National Guard officer with weekend duties. Now she led 53 survivors, soldiers and civilians, in a guerrilla war against the invaders. Remember the weak points, She whispered to the men and women around her. Aim for the breathing gear at the neck joint. 3-round bursts. Wait for my signal. Susan had discovered the alien's weakness by accident 2 weeks earlier. A desperate shot had hit the tube connecting an alien's helmet to its chest unit. The creature had collapsed, unable to breathe Earth's air for more than a few minutes. She raised her hand, then dropped it quickly. Gunfire erupted from multiple positions. The aliens spun around, their energy weapons glowing, but they were too slow. 3 fell immediately, their neck seals punctured. The others returned fire, blue energy blasts tearing through trees and brush. Move positions, Susan shouted, and her fighters melted into the forest, just as they had practiced. The aliens spoke into a communication device. Susan smiled grimly. They would call for reinforcements, but by then her team would be gone, along with the aliens' weapons and supplies. This was the 3rd patrol they had ambushed this week. Each time they collected more alien technology and learned more about their enemy. Susan knew other resistance groups were doing the same across the country, across the world. The aliens might control the cities, but the countryside belonged to humans. Outside Chicago, night had fallen. Richard Garcia moved silently through the shadows, away from the alien processing center that had once been Soldier Field. As a police officer before the invasion, he knew every back alley and service tunnel in the city. Now those tunnels had become escape routes for human prisoners. Tonight he had helped 12 people slip away from alien captivity. This way, he whispered, leading the group toward a sewer entrance. Stay quiet. Their patrols pass by here every 20 minutes. A woman carrying a sleeping child looked at the dark sewer opening with fear. Where will we go? We have a safe camp 30 miles outside the city, Richard explained. There are hundreds of us now. We have food, medicine, and weapons. He checked his watch. We need to move now. Their next patrol is due soon. As they disappeared into the sewer, an alien ship passed overhead, its searchlights scanning the streets. Richard had timed their movement perfectly. The light passed over the entrance seconds after they closed the cover. Underground, they moved through the darkness using small red lights that the aliens couldn't detect from above. Richard had memorized the maze of tunnels and led them confidently. After an hour of walking, they reached a larger chamber where 3 armed humans waited. Got 12 more, Richard reported. No problems. One of the guards nodded. That makes 52 this week. The aliens are getting sloppy. Richard didn't smile. No, they're getting stretched thin. Too many points of resistance to control. That's exactly what we wanted. In a basement laboratory hidden beneath a destroyed university, Professor Allen Wright carefully examined a piece of alien technology. The device had been taken from a crashed scout ship and could be the key to understanding their communications. Their language is based on mathematical patterns, he explained to Kate Donovan, who had brought him the device. If we can break the code, we might be able to listen to their transmissions. Kate, a former Navy SEAL, showed little interest in the technical details. Can you make it work or not, Professor? My team is hitting another patrol tomorrow and we need any advantage we can get. Allen sighed. Kate and her team had been instrumental in gathering alien technology, but she always wanted results faster than science could provide. Yes, I can make it work, but rushing could mean mistakes, and mistakes could alert them to what we're doing. He connected the device to a modified computer. Give me 3 days and I'll have something useful for you. Kate nodded reluctantly. 3 days. Then we need to move again. The aliens are scanning for electronic signatures. After she left, Allen returned to his work. 3 weeks ago, he had been teaching physics to undergraduates. Now he was reverse engineering alien technology. Around him, other scientists worked on different projects, modifying human weapons to be more effective against alien armor, adapting alien power sources to human equipment, creating jammers to hide from alien sensors. It was a race against time, with the future of humanity at stake. Jack Miller led a small group through dense Montana forest. They moved quickly despite the heavy packs each carried. There's an alien outpost 3 miles ahead, he told the group during a brief rest. They're using it to monitor this whole region. We take it out, we blind them for 100 miles. A young woman named Laura checked her rifle. Their armor stops bullets. How do we fight them? Jack opened his pack and pulled out several homemade devices. We don't fight fair. We use these. He had spent his first week after the invasion gathering supplies from nearby farms, fertilizer, diesel fuel, and other materials that, when combined properly, created powerful explosives. They think they're hunting scared civilians, Jack said. We'll show them they're wrong. The group continued their march as the sun began to set. Jack had chosen night for their attack because they had discovered another alien weakness. Their vision wasn't as good as human night vision in Earth's conditions. As darkness fell, they reached the ridge overlooking the alien outpost, 5 tall, structures surrounded by a force field perimeter. Jack studied it through binoculars. The generators for the shield are there, he pointed. When we take those out, we hit the main building with everything we've got. The group spread out, each taking position. Jack checked his watch. In similar raids across the country, other humans were doing the same thing, striking at alien infrastructure, disappearing before reinforcements arrived, slowly weakening the invaders' hold. He gave the signal to begin. The first explosives took out the shield generators. Alarms blared from the alien compound, but it was too late. The second wave of explosives hit the main building. The entire structure collapsed. Within 10 minutes, the raid was over. The group melted back into the forest, leaving behind a ruined outpost and confused alien reinforcements. That's why they're losing, Jack told his team as they made their way back to their hidden camp. They came ready for a war with armies. Instead, they got 1,000 small cuts from enemies they can't see. On his command ship, Zorthak received the latest casualty reports with growing alarm. The humans were not behaving as expected. Instead of surrendering after their conventional forces were defeated, they had adapted, using the planet itself against the invaders. We need more troops, he told the Imperial High Command. This species is more dangerous than we anticipated. The response was not what he wanted to hear. No additional forces are available. Complete your mission with what you have, General. Failure is not acceptable. Zorthak ended the transmission, his 4 fists clenched in frustration. What had begun as a simple conquest was becoming a war of attrition, one the Kelvarians had not prepared for. The humans would pay for their resistance, he vowed. But in the back of his mind, doubt had begun to grow. 6 months into the occupation, Earth had changed. Cities once controlled by the Kelvarians now stood as battlegrounds. The aliens still held orbital superiority, but on the ground, humans were winning. General Zorthak had not left his command ship in weeks. Dark circles had formed under his large eyes and his scales had lost their healthy shine. The holographic map before him showed a sea of red indicators, human-resistant strongholds, failed Kelvarian outposts, and supply lines under constant attack. How is this possible? He demanded of his officers. They have primitive weapons. We have technology centuries beyond theirs. His second-in-command spoke carefully. They fight differently, General. Not as we expected. Not as any species has fought us before. Zorthak slammed one of his 4 hands on the console. Find a way to crush them. The Empire demands results. In the ruins of Philadelphia, Army Ranger Paul Martinez watched an alien patrol through his rifle scope. 6 months ago, he had been leading training exercises at Fort Benning. Now he trained civilians to fight aliens. Notice how they always follow the same path, he whispered to the group of 20 men and women behind him. They never change their patterns. That's their weakness. He had spent weeks observing alien patrol routes, documenting their habits, finding predictable behaviors to exploit. Today's lesson would put that knowledge to deadly use. The trap is set here, here, and here, Paul said, pointing to locations on a hand-drawn map. When the lead alien reaches the first marker, Lisa will trigger the explosion. That will drive them into the kill zone. Remember, aim for the breathing apparatus. 2 shots each. Then we disappear before reinforcements arrive. The group nodded, their faces serious. Many had lost family to the aliens. All had chosen to fight rather than hide. As the alien patrol approached, Paul gave a hand signal. The group grew still, weapons ready. The aliens marched in perfect formation, their armor gleaming in the morning sun. The lead alien stepped on a small piece of red cloth, the marker. Seconds later, an explosion tore through the street behind the patrol. The aliens turned toward, the sound precisely as Paul had predicted. They moved into the narrow alley, directly into the humans' sights. "Now!" Paul shouted. 20 rifles fired in unison. The aliens' breathing equipment shattered. They clawed at their helmets desperately as Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere filled their lungs. Within minutes, it was over. "Collect their weapons and equipment," Paul ordered. 5 minutes, then we move. This scene was repeated across the planet daily. Humans had learned that the aliens' greatest strength, their technological superiority, had made them overconfident and predictable. In a hidden bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Colonel Diane Russell studied reports from resistance cells worldwide. The former Marine officer had established what many now called the Ghost Network, a system of communication that used modified alien technology to connect resistance fighters across continents. The European front reports success with the new jammers, her communications officer reported. "They've taken down 3 alien command posts this week." Diane nodded, marking the locations on her map. "And Asia?" "Still holding. The Chinese resistance has pushed the aliens out of the western provinces entirely." This was the news Diane had been waiting for. Humanity wasn't just surviving, it was pushing back. The aliens controlled less territory each day. She keyed her microphone, connecting to resistance leaders worldwide. "Phase 2 begins tomorrow. Target their supply lines and communication hubs. Cut them off from their command ships." Across the globe, humans prepared for coordinated strikes against the invaders. The Kelvarians had expected to face armies. Instead, they faced an entire planet of determined fighters who knew their homeland better than any invader ever could. Engineer. Frank Weber wiped sweat from his forehead as he made final adjustments to the missile. For months he had studied captured alien technology, focusing on their shield systems. Now he believed he had found their weakness. "Their shields operate on a specific frequency," he explained to the military officers gathered around him. "If we modify our missiles to emit a counter-frequency, we can penetrate their defenses." General Sandra Collins looked skeptical. "You're sure this will work?" Frank nodded confidently. "We've tested it on captured alien equipment. The science is sound." "Then we proceed," Sandra decided. "Target the cruiser over the Atlantic. It's been coordinating their East Coast operations." Hours later, Frank stood in the control room of the hidden missile base. Repurposed cruise missiles, now modified with his design, were ready to launch. "Fire when ready," Sandra ordered. The missiles streaked into the night sky. On monitors, they watched as alien point defense systems tried to shoot them down. Some missiles fell, but others continued their approach. The cruiser's shields glowed. As the first missile struck, and then, to everyone's amazement, the shields flickered and failed. The remaining missiles hit the ship directly. The alien cruiser listed to one side, then exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up the night sky. Cheers erupted across the control room. For the first time, humans had destroyed a major alien vessel. The psychological impact would be enormous, both for humanity and for the invaders. Sandra turned to Frank with newfound respect. "How soon can you modify more missiles?" Frank smiled. "Production has already started. Within a month we'll have hundreds." The tide of war had shifted. In orbit, Admiral Vexmore received the news of the cruiser's destruction with shock. He immediately called General Zorthak to his command vessel. "This is unprecedented," the Admiral said when Zorthak arrived. "The humans have adapted our own technology against us. The Imperial High Command is concerned." Zorthak knew what that meant. The Empire did not tolerate failure. "We still control the orbital platforms. We can increase bombardment." "No," Vexmore interrupted. "The resources of this planet are too valuable to destroy. We need this world intact." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "The High Command is considering withdrawal." Zorthak stood straighter, his pride wounded. "Withdrawal? We cannot surrender to primitives. Not surrender, Vexmore corrected. Strategic repositioning. This species has proven more formidable than any we have encountered. The cost of subduing them may exceed the value of their world. As if to emphasize his point, alarms sounded throughout the ship. More human missiles were rising from the planet's surface. The Calvarian Empire, which had conquered 12 worlds before Earth, was facing its first defeat. Jack Miller led his group through the winter forest. Snow crunched beneath their boots as they approached the alien weather monitoring station. The Calvarians struggled with Earth's climate, especially the cold. Their equipment froze, their vehicles malfunctioned, and their troops moved sluggishly in the snow. Remember, Jack told his fighters, they've never experienced winter. Use it against them. The alien station was protected by a small force field and 3 guards. Jack's team had spent weeks learning the station's systems. They knew exactly when the field would cycle, creating a 3-second gap they could exploit. On my mark, Jack whispered, watching his timer. 3, 2, 1, now. His team rushed forward during the shield cycle. Before the aliens could react, they were inside the perimeter. The guards fell quickly, their reactions slowed by the cold. Inside the station, Jack planted explosive charges while others downloaded data from alien computers. The information would tell them troop movements, supply schedules, and communication codes. Priceless intelligence for the resistance. 5 minutes later, they were gone, disappearing into the snowy forest. Behind them, the station erupted in flames. Jack smiled grimly. Across the planet, similar teams were striking alien facilities with growing confidence. The invaders had never expected such resistance. They had thought Earth was an easy target. They had been wrong. As winter settled over much of Earth's northern hemisphere, Zorthak faced an uncomfortable truth. His forces were losing. Every day brought more defeats, more lost outposts, more destroyed ships. The humans had turned their planet's harsh conditions into weapons. In his private quarters, he drafted a message to the Imperial High Command, choosing each word with care. The Earth campaign faces unprecedented challenges. Human resistance exceeds all projections. Request permission to implement controlled withdrawal to preserve remaining forces. He sent the message, knowing it might end his career, or worse. The Empire did not look kindly on failure. Hours later, the response came. Withdrawal authorized. Salvage what forces and equipment possible. The Empire will reconsider its approach to this species. For the first time in its long history, the Calvarian Empire had met a species it could not easily conquer. Earth would remain free, not because of superior technology or military might, but because of human determination, adaptability, and an unwavering will to fight for their home. The ground war had turned the tide, and the aliens were retreating. 1 year after the first Calvarian ships darkened Earth's skies, the planet looked very different. Cities showed scars of battle, but in many places, humans had already begun rebuilding. The alien invaders were in full retreat. General Sandra, Collins stood on a hilltop outside Washington, D.C., watching as human forces surrounded the last major alien stronghold in North America. At 53, she had seen many battlefields, but none like this. Her troops used a mix of human and modified alien weapons, moving with confidence against an enemy that once seemed unbeatable. All units in position, her radio operator reported, ready for final assault. Sandra nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. Tell them to begin. Remember, we want prisoners if possible. The more we learn about their technology, the better prepared we'll be for the future. Below, tanks and armored vehicles moved forward. Overhead aircraft, some human, some captured alien craft now piloted by humans, provided cover. The assault had been planned for weeks, coordinated with similar attacks worldwide. The aliens responded with energy weapons, but their fire lacked the precision of earlier battles. Their supplies were running low, their numbers reduced by months of guerrilla warfare. Some surrendered quickly, throwing down weapons when surrounded. Others fought to the end. By sunset, the stronghold had fallen. Similar reports came in from across the globe. Paris, Moscow, Beijing, Tokyo. The Kelvarians were losing their last footholds on Earth. Sandra allowed herself a small smile. Send word to command. North American sector secure. Aboard the Kelvarian, Command Ship Admiral Vexmore and General Zorthak watched the battles unfold on view screens. Their once mighty invasion force had been reduced to scattered pockets of resistance. Most of their ground troops were dead or captured. The withdrawal is proceeding too slowly, Vexmore said, his voice tight with anger. At this rate, we will lose half our remaining forces before evacuation is complete. Zorthak had no answer. His career was over. He had failed the Empire. The humans had proven far more dangerous than anyone had predicted. We underestimated them, he admitted. They do not fight as other species fight. They do not surrender. When their armies fall, every human becomes a soldier when their world is threatened. Vexmore turned away from the screens. The High Command has ordered complete withdrawal. We are to leave all remaining ground forces and equipment. The priority is preserving our ships. Zorthak stared in shock. Abandon our troops? That is against all our military codes. The orders are clear, Vexmore replied coldly. This world will be marked as hostile territory, forbidden for future exploration. The Empire has judged the cost too high. On the view screens, more human missiles rose from the planet's surface, targeting Kelvarian ships. Their shields still worked against most attacks, but each day the humans improved their weapons. It was only a matter of time before the fleet itself was in danger. Zorthak watched as evacuation orders went out to all remaining outposts. The mighty Kelvarian Empire was retreating from a world they had thought would be an easy conquest. Jack Miller watched alien dropships rising from their bases, abandoning equipment and even some of their own people in their rush to escape. His resistance group had grown from a handful of neighbors to over 300 fighters. They had liberated 3 counties and helped thousands of civilians escape alien processing centers. They're really leaving, said Laura, now his second in command. The young woman had proven herself a natural leader during the past year. Jack nodded, lowering his binoculars. Not just here. Reports say it's happening worldwide. They're pulling out completely. Laura's face showed mixed emotions, joy at their victory, sadness for what had been lost. What happens now? The world is different. Everything's changed. Jack had been thinking about this question for weeks. We rebuild, we learn from their technology, and we prepare, because we're not alone in the universe anymore, and the next visitors might be even worse. His radio crackled with a message from Colonel Russell's command center. All units be advised, major alien transmission detected. They're broadcasting worldwide on all frequencies. Jack and Laura exchanged looks before turning up their radio to listen. In the Rocky Mountain Command Bunker, Colonel Diane Russell and her staff gathered around communication equipment as the alien transmission began. After a year of fighting, they had learned much of the Kelvarian language, but this message came through in perfect English. People of Earth, the alien voice began. The Kelvarian Empire acknowledges your victory. Our forces will depart your world and your solar system. Earth will be declared sovereign territory, forbidden to future imperial expansion. The room remained silent, officers and technicians hardly daring to breathe as the message continued. You have proven yourselves worthy adversaries. No species in 12 prior conquests has succeeded where you have. In recognition of this achievement and as a gesture of respect between warriors, we provide the following information: star charts of nearby systems, data on other spacefaring races both friendly and hostile, and technical specifications that may help you defend against future threats. Data began flowing into Earth's computer systems, vast amounts of information about the galaxy beyond their world. Be warned, there are others in the void between stars who would seek what we sought. Prepare yourselves. The Kelvarian Empire will not return to Earth, but others will come. The transmission ended. Colonel Russell looked at her staff, seeing the same mixture of triumph and concern on every face. Record this as the day humanity joined the galactic community, she said quietly. Not as conquerors or the conquered, but as survivors. 6 months. After the last alien ship vanished from Earth's skies, the world had changed forever. Nations that once fought each other now worked together, united by their shared victory and the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe. In New York, the United Nations had been replaced by the Earth Defense Council, with representatives from every country. General Lisa Ward, promoted for her leadership during the war, addressed the assembled delegates. Today we activate the first global early warning system built with recovered alien technology, she announced. Within 5 years we will have a fleet of ships capable of defending our solar system. What we learned from the invasion has advanced our science by centuries. George Franklin, now a special advisor to the council, stood beside her. But our greatest strength is not technology, he added. It is what the Kelvarians never understood about us. Our spirit. When faced with overwhelming odds, humans do not surrender. We adapt. We overcome. We stand together. The alien data had revealed a complex galaxy filled with both threats and potential allies. Humanity was preparing for either possibility. In Montana, Jack Miller planted new crops in fields that had once been battlegrounds. Life was returning to normal, or as normal as it could be in a world forever changed by contact with alien life. The scars would heal, but the lessons would remain. His radio played a news report about new defense installations being built using alien technology. Schools now taught Kelvarian language and science. The invasion had cost millions of lives, but it had also united humanity as nothing before. Jack looked up as aircraft passed overhead, sleek fighters built with a combination of human ingenuity and alien science. Their contrails crossed a sky that humans now watched more carefully than ever before. The aliens had thought Earth would be an easy conquest. They had been wrong, and because of their mistake, humanity had taken its first steps toward the stars, not as conquerors, but as a species determined never to be conquered. In orbit, a new space station began construction, the first of many, planned outposts to watch for any sign of returning threats. Its name was visible on its partially completed hull. Never again. Earth stood free, scarred but unbroken, its people forever changed by the war that had almost destroyed them, and, instead, had made them stronger. The ground war was over, but humanity's journey was just beginning.